Dear students, today we are going to look at a plant growth facility which is used for the commercial cultivation. And you would see here the environment is controlled and enclosed. And you can, so if you look at the environment, you would see that it is a monoculture. The plants are of the same type and they are being supported and they are grown in a pots. So before we focus into this, the plant and its growth, let's have a look at the growth facility. If you look at this environment, you would see it is enclosed from every side. Can you see? And if you have a look, the side of this one, the sides, right? So these sides are, they are covered with a mesh, and this mesh is specifically used for plant growth facilities, and this mesh is called insect proof mesh. And in this insect proof mesh, most of the insect types are restricted and they cannot enter, and it's like a nylon mesh. And if you look at the upward, you would see there is a cover, and this is a polythene, the special polythene called the greenhouse polythene. And in this polythene, one side is UV protected, and when you are laying this polythene, you need to mindful of the side which is UV treated, and it should be outside. And you would see that all these things are supported by a steel structure, and this steel structure is made up of galvanized pipes. And you may be curious about the size of this greenhouse that I am referring to. And this greenhouse is about 2,500 square feet in area. And when you looked at its height, you would see it has a considerable height, right? Nearly 20 foot height. The reason is the area where we are is usually having a high humidity. And when the environment is enclosed like this, and always there is a tendency of occurring the greenhouse effect. So what happens during this greenhouse effect? So the temperature inside is going up, and if you compare the temperature with the outside environment, sometimes it may rise up above 3 to 4 Celsius. So that's not healthy for the plants. You know about it. And to maintain that, you need to have a considerable height. Otherwise, you may not be able to control the temperature and the humidity inside. So the environment here inside is humid. You would see there are many plants, and the transpiration takes place, and the evaporation also takes place. So because of that, the environment, so there is always very high tendency to go the temperature up. So there are many ways that we have been following to reduce the effect of high temperature in this tropical area. So if you look at this over here, you would see there is a duct fan, and there are this duct fan is operating when the temperature goes up. And not only that, you would see there are some sprinklers over here. They are misters. Can you see this line? So this line carries a pressurized water, and that water is released out from these misters, and these misters spray or they make a mist around this uh, this environment. So this fan reduce the pressure, and the ultimate effect is the there is a low pressure created over here, and the air is now moving in from the outside environment, right? So you would see now the environment is, because this is a insect proof mesh, so the the air can move in because there is a low pressure created inside, so that have the cooling effect. So that's how the temperature is regulated inside. Let's look at how the watering is regulated. So we need to provide water because the media that we are using over here, you would see it is this one is just cockpit with various sizes to avoid the effect of being compacted. If the media is compacted, so you know it is become very difficult for the rooting. So the roots are in the inert media. That means there's no nutrients, no water. So we have to provide nutrients and the water to these plants. How are we going to do it? To do that, you need to have a way to provide nutrients. So you would see here, there is a dripper. Can you see over here? So this dripper drips the water when the watering system is on. And this dripper is connected to a main line like this. Can you see? It is connected and the dripper is given. So this main line is provided with the pressurized water. So this main line is connected and it is provided with the pressurized water. So this drippers release about 4 liters per hour. So depending on the water requirement of the plant, we are maintaining the volume that needs to be provided. So usually these plants are well grown, you would see, and they need a large amount of water, nearly about 1.5 liter per day. So if there are, let's say, 100 plants, we need at least 150 liters per day to be provided. And water is not provided as they are alone. So the water is always provided with the nutrients. So these nutrients are dissolved in the water. So depending on the plant's requirements, we are giving them these different types of nutrients. Especially in the early stage, we are giving them the nitrogen and phosphorus, more nitrogen and more phosphorus. And then we are changing that regime to more potassium when the plants are in the flowering stage like this. So we are inducing the flowering. You would see now the flowering are induced over here. So that's the way of giving the nutrients to the plants. Not only that, in case, especially in a very wet periods, we may get this type of diseases. Can you see over here? So this is sort of a fungal infection here. And this fungal infection we need to treat. So to treat, there are two ways. One is that we can provide the treatment in the spray mode. In addition, we can provide this some nutrients, some agrochemicals, including fungicides, through these dripper lines, through these dripper lines, right? So we dissolve them and provide them directly into the roots. So you see that these plants are also supported. You can see they have been supported with the strings because they are grown in this very shallow medium. They can't support themselves, so they need to provide these supporting structures. And this is a high density planting where we plant a large number of plants in a very short spacing. So the spacing is minimal here. And this can't be done in the outside environment. The reason is the competition creates between plants as well as the pest and the disease. So since we are in the enclosed environment, so the pest and diseases are minimized. We can't say that they have been excluded. If there is a pest or disease attack, we can easily control them. But in outside environment, that's not there. And not only that, the watering is controlled, the nutrition supply is controlled, and the temperature, humidity are controlled. So the plant is in a more or less a favorable environment. And mind you, when the plant is in such a favorable environment, it is also equally favorable for pest and the diseases. So we need to be very mindful of that. When you come in to this type of enclosed agriculture environment, you need to follow some guidelines. You can't just come in, and if you look at the area where we make the entrance, so you would see that this area has two doors. And not only that, you would see that we need to change the shoes, and we need to even change the clothes and come in such a manner that no pests are coming on. When there are two doors, so these two doors are open at two times. So the one is open to an external chamber, and then you would see that that door is closed and then open the other door. So that's the way. And we are not bringing anything outside without doing the spraying of a disinfectant inside to this area. So this is kept in such a manner. However, we whatever the steps that we take, it's not that easy to exclude some of the pests and pathogens. We need to keep eye on it, and if there is any signs, so we need to use some method to control it without giving any room for them to uh, propagate inside this environment. If they propagate, so it is like a wildfire. They spread very fast. The reason is the environment is so cool for them, so conducive for their growth. They have all the requirements. They have food, and they don't have any enemies. But in an external environment, mostly when the pest population increases, it is sensed by some enemies of them, and they come and feed on them. So there is sort of a natural control, but isn't anything in here. Therefore, you need to be very careful in that. So you would see that now we are going to see the entrance. So the entrance is like this. It has two doors. Can you see? So this is the first door. When we open this door, and it comes to a chamber, and this chamber you would see there is a deep food dip to uh, it has water so that it wash your foot, and then you come to the outside environment. That's the chamber, entrance chamber. And in this chamber you would see that it is a enclosed environment over here. And then the second door is open, and that's open to the outside. And even in that second door you would see there is a foot bath. Foot bath is again to wash your feet. And this is the controlled growth environment that usually maintains or ought to be maintained for high intensity agriculture. Although they are ideally suited for the high intensity agriculture, even for the laboratory plant cultivation, for various purposes, we need to have this type of environment, which is very conducive, and plants are healthier, and we can grow the plants in a ideal environment. So that helps us in doing some experiments. Therefore, you as the the personnel who are managing the plant growth facilities, I think this type of environment can be maintained, even though not that much large in size. You can maintain this type of environment.